poor young nurse helped a fainting old woman, not knowing she was the billionaire CEO's mother. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. The rain had been falling for hours over the quiet streets of St. Mary's district. The air smelled of wet asphalt, and the distant hum of ambulance sirens echoed through the night. Inside the entrance of St. Mary's Hospital, a young nurse named Maya Lewis hurried across the parking lot, her sneakers splashing through shallow puddles. Her shift had already ended, but she stayed behind to finish charting one last patient. As she reached the gate, she heard a faint thud, then a weak cry for help. Turning sharply, she saw an elderly woman collapse beside a parked car, her umbrella rolling away into the rain. Maya's heart jolted. She dropped her bag and rushed forward. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" she called, kneeling beside the woman. The woman's face was pale, her lips trembling. Without hesitation, Maya tore off her own jacket, covered the woman's shoulders, and felt for a pulse. It was faint but steady. "Hang in there, please. You are going to be all right," Maya whispered. She waved to the security guard at the gate. "Call the emergency desk. Get a stretcher, right now." The guard hesitated, mumbling something about shift protocols and paperwork. Maya's tone sharpened. "Forget the forms. She is not breathing right." Her voice cracked with urgency. She began chest compressions right there on the wet pavement, rainwater soaking through her scrubs. 1, 2, 3, she counted out loud, every push echoing her determination. The guard finally ran for help. Within moments, 2 orderlies rushed out with a stretcher. Maya guided them carefully as they lifted the woman and rolled her toward the sliding doors of the emergency wing. Fluorescent lights flooded over the hallway as they pushed through. The woman's wrist glinted with a silver pendant, shaped like an old locket. It slipped loose as Maya adjusted the oxygen mask. Without thinking, she caught it and tucked it safely beside the woman's hand. "You are safe now," she said softly, though she was trembling from the cold. Inside the treatment bay, Dr. Harris appeared, startled to see Maya drenched and kneeling by the patient. "Lewis, what are you doing here? Your shift ended an hour ago." "She collapsed right outside," Maya explained, panting. "No one else was around." Dr. Harris frowned but gave a nod. "All right, prepare an IV and run vitals." As the monitors began to beep rhythmically, Maya stepped back, her fingers still shaking. The woman's chest rose and fell more evenly now. Relief washed over her like the warmth of sunlight breaking through the storm. When the team took over, Maya stood aside, soaked and exhausted, watching the heart monitor blink steadily. The woman's face, though lined with age, looked peaceful now. Maya allowed herself a small smile. She did not know who this stranger was, nor that her decision to stay late tonight would change her life forever. Outside the window, the rain finally began to ease, leaving behind the glimmer of streetlights reflected on wet pavement. Maya gathered her things, her jacket still wrapped around the woman. She turned once more toward the hospital room and whispered under her breath, "Be strong, ma'am. You will make it through the night." She could never have guessed that the person lying on that hospital bed was not just anyone, but the mother of the billionaire CEO whose company owned the very hospital where she worked. That truth, and everything it would bring, was waiting quietly beyond that rain-soaked night. The next morning, the rain had stopped, but the sky above St. Mary's Hospital was still gray and heavy. Maya walked down the long hallway with her hair tied in a low bun and the same pair of worn sneakers she had owned since nursing school. Her scrubs were neatly pressed, but her eyes showed the exhaustion of another sleepless night. She had stayed at the hospital long after the emergency, finishing paperwork until almost 4 o'clock in the morning. As she reached the nurse's station, her supervisor, head nurse Daniels, stood waiting with a clipboard in hand. "Maya Lewis," she said sharply, "I need to talk to you." Maya's stomach tightened. "Yes, ma'am." Daniels adjusted her glasses. "You performed a procedure off-shift without authorization. You signed out at 10 o'clock, and yet you admitted a patient at 11:30. That is a violation of hospital policy." Maya froze. The woman collapsed right outside. I could not just walk away. There was no one else around. "That is not the point," Daniel snapped. "We have rules for a reason. You should have called emergency intake before acting on your own. You are on a temporary contract, remember that. One more infraction, and we cannot renew it." Maya nodded silently. The sting of humiliation burned behind her eyes, but she kept her voice calm. "Understood, ma'am." When the supervisor walked away, Maya leaned against the counter, staring down at her trembling hands. She could still feel the pulse of that old woman beneath her fingers, fading, then returning. What else could she have done? Let the woman die because the clock said her shift was over? Her best friend at work, Natalie, appeared beside her holding 2 paper cups. "Coffee," she said gently, pushing one toward Maya. "I heard about last night. You did the right thing." Maya gave a weak smile. "Tell that to Nurse Daniels." She took a sip of the bitter coffee. "Sometimes it feels like kindness is a liability here." Natalie shrugged. "You have more heart than this whole hospital combined. Do not lose that." When her break ended, Maya went back to the ward. Every beep and hum of the monitors seemed louder than usual. The hospital was bright but cold, like a place where compassion was measured by policy. At lunchtime, she went to the staff cafeteria. The food line was long, the smell of reheated soup and overcooked vegetables filling the air. She found a quiet corner table and opened her wallet. Inside was a single $20 bill, just enough to cover rent if she skipped lunch. She put the wallet back and drank from the water fountain instead. Outside the window, the parking lot glistened from the morning rain. Maya's reflection appeared faintly in the glass-tired eyes. Messy bun, faint bruise on her arm from lifting stretchers. For a moment, she let herself imagine a different life. She used to dream of studying advanced nursing and opening a free clinic for low-income families, but those dreams had grown distant under the weight of bills and long shifts. When her shift finally ended, she stopped by the patient board out of habit. Her eyes fell on a new entry. "Unidentified female, admitted 11:30 last night." The bed number was the same room where she had left the woman. Maya's breath caught. She hesitated, then turned toward that hallway. The door to room 317 was slightly ajar. Inside, the old woman lay still, an oxygen tube resting across her face. Her skin looked less pale, her pulse steady on the monitor. Relief spread through Maya's chest. She stepped quietly closer and adjusted the blanket. "You are stronger than you look, ma'am," she whispered. "Keep fighting." A faint glimmer caught her eye, the silver pendant she had noticed the night before. It lay on the bedside table, polished now, shaped like an engraved locket. She brushed her fingertips across it gently, feeling an odd warmth, as if it held some kind of story she could not yet see. "Lewis," a voice called from the hallway. It was Dr. Harris again. "You are still here?" "Yes, sir," she said quickly. "I was just checking on her." He nodded, glancing toward the patient. "Her condition stabilized overnight. Good work. But please, follow the protocol next time." "Oh, yes, Dr. Harris," Maya replied. As he left, she stood by the bedside for another moment, unable to shake the feeling that there was something unusual about this woman. Her skin, her jewelry, even the faint scent of perfume. It was not the kind of fragrance sold at local stores. Finally, Maya gathered her things and walked out into the corridor. The fluorescent lights flickered once above her, casting long reflections on the polished floor. She took a deep breath and whispered to herself, "Whatever comes next, I can handle it." Outside the hospital doors, the first sunlight broke through the clouds, turning the wet pavement into a sheet of gold. Maya did not know that beyond those hospital walls, someone powerful had already begun asking questions about the nurse who refused to walk away. A few days later, the rhythm of the hospital returned to its usual pace, but Maya could not stop thinking about the old woman in room 317. Each morning she passed by the door and peeked inside, even when the patient was not assigned to her. The woman's color had improved, and she was now conscious for brief moments, though still weak and unable to speak much. On the 4th morning, as Maya adjusted an IV line for another patient, she heard a soft voice behind her. "You were the one who found me, were you not?" Maya turned around quickly. The elderly woman was sitting up slightly in her bed, her eyes open and clear. The sound of that voice startled her. "Yes, ma'am," she said, stepping closer. "You collapsed outside the hospital. I happened to see you." The woman studied her with gentle curiosity. Her hair was silver and neatly brushed now, and there was something elegant in her posture, even beneath the hospital gown. "What is your name, dear?" "Maya Lewis," she said quietly. The woman smiled faintly. "Maya, that is a beautiful name. You stayed with me, did you not?" "Through the rain." "I just did what anyone should do," Maya replied. "You are feeling better, I hope?" "Better, yes," the woman said softly, her fingers brushing the edge of the blanket. "I do not remember much, but I remember a voice saying, 'You are going to be all right.' That voice was yours." Maya felt her cheeks warm. "Maybe. I was trying to keep you awake." The woman nodded slowly, her gaze distant as though she were piecing together memories. On her wrist, the silver pendant glimmered in the sunlight. "Thank you, Maya. You did more than save my life. You reminded me that kindness still exists." Before Maya could respond, the door opened and Natalie peeked in. "Maya, Dr. Harris needs you in the East Wing." "I will be right there," Maya said, then turned back to the woman. "I will come check on you later, all right?" The woman smiled again. "I will look forward to it." That evening, when the ward quieted, Maya returned to room 317. The woman was awake, reading a small book. "You should be resting," Maya said with a gentle laugh. "I have done enough resting," the woman replied, her tone light. "Sit with me a moment, will you?" Maya hesitated but then pulled a chair beside the bed. "If I get caught, Nurse Daniels will have my head." "Ah, then we will blame me," the woman said with a playful glint in her eyes. "Tell me, Maya, what made you choose this work? It is not an easy life." Maya thought for a moment. "I like helping people. I grew up watching my mother take care of everyone in our neighborhood. When she got sick, I realized how hard it is to find care that is both kind and affordable. So I decided that is what I would do." The woman listened quietly, her expression softening. "Do you have family here?" "Just my younger brother. He is in college. I send him a little money when I can," Maya answered. The woman reached out and gently touched Maya's hand. "You have a good heart. The world needs more of that." A knock at the door interrupted them. A man in a dark suit stepped in, carrying a tablet. "Mrs. Cole, your test results are ready," he said politely. Maya froze. Mrs. Cole. She had not heard the name before. The woman turned to her with a calm smile. "Do not look so surprised, dear. I suppose I never told you my full name. I am Agnes Cole." Maya's lips parted slightly. The surname sounded familiar. "Cole, as in Cole Meditech?" she asked carefully. Agnes smiled knowingly but did not answer directly. Names are just names. What matters is how we use them. The man handed her the tablet, and she signed something with an elegant flourish before he left. Maya sat in silence, trying to place the connection. Cole Meditech was one of the largest healthcare companies in the country. Their CEO, Ethan Cole, appeared on magazine covers and charity events. If this woman shared his last name, then Agnes noticed her unease. "You need not worry. To me, you are not a nurse or an employee. You are the young woman who refused to let a stranger die in the rain." Maya smiled awkwardly. "I am just glad you are recovering." Before she left, Agnes said softly, "Maya, do you still have that jacket you covered me with?" Maya shook her head. "No, ma'am. It was soaked that night. I left it with the emergency team." Agnes nodded thoughtfully. "I see. That jacket carried your warmth. I will remember it." Later that night, as Maya walked home under the dim streetlights, her mind replayed the conversation. The name Cole echoed in her thoughts like a half-familiar melody. She passed by a newspaper stand and glanced at the headlines. On the front page was a photograph of a man shaking hands with city officials. "Ethan Cole, CEO of Cole Meditech, announces new hospital expansion." Maya stopped walking. Her eyes moved from the photograph to the caption, then back again. She remembered the silver pendant, the way the woman spoke with quiet authority. Her breath caught as realization began to form. The woman she had saved might not just be another patient. She might be the mother of the man who owned the entire hospital. And somewhere high above the city, that very man, Ethan Cole, was asking his assistant to find out who had rescued his mother on that rainy night. 2 days later, Maya was called to the administrative office without explanation. Her heart pounded as she entered. Inside sat Dr. Harris, head nurse Daniels, and a man she had never seen before. He was tall, well-dressed, and carried an air of quiet authority. His suit looked expensive, but it was the way he stood, confident and perfectly still, that drew every eye. "Maya Lewis," Dr. Harris said, clearing his throat. "This is Mr. Ethan Cole." The name struck her like thunder. The man from the newspaper. The CEO of Cole Meditech. Ethan extended his hand. "You were the nurse on duty the night my mother was admitted. Is that correct?" Maya hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, sir. I found her outside the gate and brought her in." "Oh." His tone was polite but distant. "I see. And why did you decide to intervene after your shift had ended?" Maya blinked. "Because she needed help," she said softly. There was no one else around. Head Nurse Daniels interjected quickly. "Mr. Cole, we have already discussed that Nurse Lewis acted without authorization. We handled the matter internally." Ethan's sharp blue eyes shifted to Daniels. "Handled?" he repeated. "You mean you disciplined the person who saved my mother's life?" The room went silent. Daniels opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Ethan looked back at Maya. "My mother spoke highly of you. She said you treated her with kindness and not out of obligation. For that, I thank you." Maya's voice trembled slightly. "I was only doing my duty, sir." He studied her for a moment, unreadable. "My mother insists that you be assigned as her personal nurse for the remainder of her recovery, effective immediately." Dr. Harris nodded. "Understood, Mr. Cole." When the meeting ended, Maya followed Ethan down the hallway toward the private wing. His stride was brisk, his silence heavy. She tried to keep up, unsure if she should speak. At the elevator, he finally turned to her. "My mother means a great deal to me. Her health comes before everything else. Do not hesitate to tell me if she needs anything." "Yes, Mr. Cole," Maya replied, her tone respectful but wary. As they entered the suite, Agnes Cole was sitting by the window, a soft blanket around her shoulders. When she saw Maya, her face lit up. "My dear girl, I was hoping he would find you." Ethan's expression softened for the first time. "Mother, you should be resting." "Oh, hush, Ethan. I am resting," she said, waving him off. "Maya has been checking on me even when she was not assigned. She is the only one I trust to tell me the truth." Ethan looked at her in surprise. "You hardly trust anyone." "That is why she is special," Agnes said with a knowing smile. "She reminds me of your father's favorite saying, 'Kindness is the only investment that never fails.'" Ethan exhaled quietly. "Very well, Mother. I will leave you in good hands." When he left the room, Maya adjusted the pillow behind Agnes and checked her IV line. "You did not have to ask for me," she said softly. "I did not want to cause any trouble." Agnes shook her head. "You are no trouble, dear. Sometimes fate chooses people for us before we even realize it." Outside the window, sunlight filtered through the blinds, casting gentle lines across the room. Maya felt a strange calm settle over her. The woman she had saved was not just a patient anymore. She was beginning to feel like family. What Maya did not know was that Ethan Cole, as he stood outside the door, was watching through the narrow glass panel, observing the way she spoke to his mother. There was something about her steady, compassionate, unpretentious that unsettled him. For a man who trusted few and doubted many, the quiet nurse who defied protocol for the sake of a stranger had already begun to change something inside him. A week passed, and Agnes Cole's strength returned faster than anyone expected. Under Maya's care, her color improved, and she began taking short walks in the hospital garden each morning. The staff admired the elderly woman's resilience, though no one dared to speak to her directly. Everyone knew who she was, now the matriarch of Cole Meditech, the mother of the billionaire CEO. Maya treated her like any other patient, careful but genuine. She read to her, adjusted her diet, and even brought her homemade tea. Agnes often said that Maya reminded her of the nurses from decades ago, when medicine still had a human heart. One afternoon, while helping Agnes to her seat by the window, Maya noticed Ethan standing at the doorway. He wore a navy suit, but his expression was unreadable. "You seem to be recovering well, Mother," he said. Agnes smiled. "Thanks to her," she replied, nodding toward Maya. Ethan's gaze shifted to the nurse. "You have been busy." "Yes, sir," Maya answered quietly. Agnes's voice turned firm. "Ethan, I would like Maya to attend the board's charity gala next week. She has earned it." Maya froze. "Oh, ma'am. I do not think that is appropriate. I am not part of—" Nonsense, Agnes interrupted. You are family now. You will come as my guest. Ethan frowned slightly. Mother, that event is for board members and investors. It is not exactly why she should be there, Agnes said, cutting him off. Perhaps it is time your world saw what real compassion looks like. Ethan exhaled and nodded reluctantly. Very well. If that is what you want, lie. After he left, Maya sat beside the bed, still dazed. Ma'am, I have never been to an event like that. I do not even own a dress fancy enough. Agnes chuckled softly. Do not worry, dear. I have a few gowns that have been waiting for someone with your spirit. As sunlight poured through the window, Maya smiled nervously, unaware that the gala would soon reveal more than just wealth and charity. It would uncover truths that neither she nor Ethan were prepared to face. The night of the charity gala arrived with the soft hum of violins echoing through the grand ballroom of the Cole Foundation Center. The chandeliers sparkled like constellations, reflecting off the polished marble floor. Guests in elegant gowns and tailored suits mingled, laughter blending with the clinking of crystal glasses. Maya stood at the entrance, her hands clasped nervously around a small clutch. The gown Agnes had chosen for her was a deep shade of blue, simple but graceful. She felt entirely out of place among the wealthy donors and executives, but Agnes's reassuring words replayed in her mind. You belong here, Maya. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. Ethan appeared beside her, immaculate as always, his expression calm but distant. You made it, he said. My mother will be pleased. Thank you for the invitation, Maya replied softly, unsure where to look. It was not my idea, he said, then paused as if regretting his bluntness. But I am glad you came. My mother insists you have brought her luck. Maya smiled politely. I am just happy she is doing better. Agnes soon arrived, radiant in a silver gown, leaning lightly on her cane. The crowd quieted as she made her way toward the stage. Good evening, everyone, she began, her voice firm and warm. Tonight, we celebrate the people behind the science, the caregivers, the nurses, the ones whose compassion sustains every heartbeat of this foundation. Maya felt her heart pound when Agnes gestured toward her. Among us stands someone who reminded me that kindness is not bound by rank or wealth. Nurse Maya Lewis, will you please come forward? A murmur spread through the audience as Maya hesitated. Ethan gave her a small nod. Go ahead, he said quietly. Maya stepped onto the stage, her palms damp. Agnes took her hand. This young woman saved my life one stormy night, not knowing who I was, not caring about anything except doing what was right. For that, I will forever be grateful. The audience applauded, though a few faces in the crowd looked skeptical, whispering behind jeweled fingers. Among them, Maya noticed a tall man standing near the bar, watching her closely. His sharp eyes and faint smirk sent a chill down her spine. After the applause faded, Agnes turned to Ethan. Ethan, my dear, perhaps you should tell them about our next project. Ethan approached the microphone. We are launching the Lewis Grant Scholarship for medical students who demonstrate both skill and compassion, he announced. Named in honor of the woman who reminded us what real care means. The applause rose again, louder this time, but Maya felt suddenly overwhelmed. She managed a polite smile, then excused herself from the stage. Out in the hallway, she took a deep breath, pressing her back against the wall. She was unaware that the man from the bar followed her with his eyes as she left. He pulled out his phone and whispered, She is the nurse from the hospital, the one who found Mrs. Cole. Yes, I am sure. I will handle it. Back inside, Ethan noticed the man leaving the room and frowned. Something about him felt wrong, but he turned back toward the stage to escort his mother down the steps. Maya rejoined them moments later, hiding her unease. Agnes smiled at her warmly. You did beautifully, she said. Thank you, Maya whispered, but her mind was elsewhere. There was something about that man's stare that she could not forget. Outside the ballroom windows, storm clouds began to gather once again over the city. The celebration continued, but somewhere in the dark, a quiet threat had already begun to take shape. The next morning, the sky above the city was heavy with clouds again. Maya arrived early at St. Mary's Hospital, expecting a quiet day, but the atmosphere inside was tense. Staff whispered in corners, and security officers stood outside the private wing. She hurried toward Agnes's room, her heart tightening with worry. Inside, Dr. Harris was checking Agnes's vitals while Ethan stood nearby, his jaw set in anger. What happened? Maya asked. Dr. Harris looked grim. Mrs. Cole's blood pressure dropped drastically overnight. We ran tests, and it appears that her medication was tampered with. Maya froze. Tampered with? How is that possible? Ethan's voice was cold and controlled. Someone replaced her prescribed dosage with a higher concentration of a sedative. It could have killed her if the nurse on duty had not noticed. Maya felt a chill run through her spine. But who would do something like that? Ethan's gaze hardened. That is what we are going to find out. For the next several hours, the hospital's security team reviewed records and surveillance footage. Maya assisted quietly, helping Dr. Harris catalog every vial and label. She noticed something odd. One of the medicine logs had a signature that did not match any nurse on their team. It was subtle, but wrong. That afternoon, while walking through the staff hallway, Maya overheard two orderlies talking in hushed tones. They said it was that man again, one whispered. Mrs. Cole's nephew. He was seen arguing with Mr. Cole last month. Maya stopped in her tracks. Excuse me, she said, stepping closer. What nephew? The men exchanged nervous glances. Nathan Cole, one finally answered. He manages one of the company's subsidiaries. He has been trying to push for control of the board. Maya's pulse quickened. She thanked them and hurried back to the private suite. Agnes was asleep, and Ethan was by the window, staring out at the rain that had begun to fall again. Mr. Cole, Maya said softly, I think I might have found something. One of the medicine logs from last night was signed by someone who does not work here. Ethan turned sharply. Show me. She handed him the clipboard. His eyes scanned the signature, and his expression darkened. Nathan, he muttered. Of course. Your cousin? Maya asked. My half-brother, Ethan said quietly. He has been after my position for years. He must have thought that if my mother's health declined, the board would side with him. Maya's breath caught. That is monstrous. Ethan closed his eyes for a moment. He is capable of worse. Then, turning to her, he added, Thank you, Maya. Without you, we might never have seen this. Before she could respond, one of the security officers entered the room. Sir, we located Mr. Nathan Cole at the corporate tower. The police are on their way. Law. Ethan nodded. Good. Make sure no one else leaves the premises until the investigation is complete. As the officer left, Ethan looked back at Maya. For the first time, the hardness in his eyes softened. You saved her once in the rain, and now you have saved her again. I owe you more than I can ever repay. Maya shook her head. You do not owe me anything, sir. I just want your mother to recover. Ethan took a slow breath, his voice low. She will, because you are here. Outside, thunder rolled through the clouds, but for the first time in days, Maya felt a strange sense of clarity. The truth was out, justice was in motion, and the line between duty and emotion was beginning to blur. She turned back to Agnes's bed, whispering, You are safe now. Neither of them noticed that Ethan was still watching her. Realizing that this quiet nurse had done more than heal his mother, she was quietly healing something inside him as well. The following week passed in a blur of headlines and police reports. News outlets covered the shocking story of Nathan Cole's arrest for attempted fraud and endangerment. Cole Meditech's board held emergency meetings, but Ethan managed the chaos with calm precision. Through it all, Maya remained by Agnes's side, ensuring the older woman recovered both in body and spirit. On the morning the police concluded their investigation, Ethan visited his mother's hospital suite. The tension in his shoulders had eased, though the exhaustion showed in his eyes. Agnes was sitting by the window, sunlight warming her silver hair. Maya was carefully arranging flowers on the nightstand. Ethan paused at the door, watching them for a moment. Mother, he said softly. The case is closed. Nathan confessed everything. The company will press charges. Agnes sighed, her gaze distant. It is a sad day when family turns against its own, but justice must stand. Huh? Maya looked at Ethan. I am sorry. That must be difficult for you. He shook his head. Do not be. You helped uncover the truth. My mother is alive because of you. Agnes smiled faintly. And because of that, Ethan, I think it is time you did something good in return. Ethan frowned slightly. What do you mean? She gestured toward Maya. You promised to honor compassion within your company. Start with her. Maya blinked, startled. "Ma'am, I am just a nurse." Agnes chuckled softly. "You are much more than that, dear. You represent everything this hospital was meant to be." Ethan nodded slowly. "She is right. I have been thinking about it too. We are launching a new foundation to support rural health programs. I want you to run it." Maya stared at him in disbelief. "Me? Sir, I am not qualified for something like that." "You are the most qualified person I know," Ethan said firmly. "You understand compassion better than anyone I have ever met. That is what this foundation needs." Maya hesitated, her mind spinning. "I do not know what to say." "Say yes," Agnes urged with a smile. "You can still be a nurse, just one with a wider reach." The sincerity in their eyes left no room for doubt. Maya finally nodded. "All right, I will do my best." Ethan's expression softened. "That is all I ask." Days later, Maya stood in a newly renovated office in the Cole Foundation building. The sign on the glass door read, "Lewis Community Health Initiative." She could hardly believe it was real. Behind her, Ethan entered carrying a small box. "I thought this belonged here," he said, opening the lid. Inside was the silver pendant, the one Agnes had worn the night Maya saved her. Maya's eyes widened. "You kept it." "My mother wanted you to have it," Ethan said quietly. "She said it carries the warmth of the person who gave her hope." Maya touched the pendant gently, emotion filling her voice. "Please tell her I will treasure it." Ethan smiled. "You can tell her yourself. She plans to visit often. This place is as much hers as it is yours." As he turned to leave, Maya called softly, "Mr. Cole." He stopped, looking back. "Thank you," she said. "Not just for the opportunity, but for believing in me." Ethan's eyes met hers, steady and warm. "You made me believe again, Maya. In people, in purpose, in something more." He left her standing in the doorway, the morning light glinting off the pendant in her hand. For the first time in years, Maya felt she was exactly where she was meant to be. 3 months later, the city skyline shimmered beneath the soft glow of evening lights. The grand opening of the Lewis Community Health Initiative was underway, hosted in the same ballroom where everything had begun. This time, the atmosphere was different. Instead of wealthy donors and corporate executives, the room was filled with doctors, nurses, and volunteers from hospitals across the state. The air buzzed with hope rather than vanity. Maya stood near the stage, adjusting her name badge that now read, Director. She still wore her nurse's pin, a quiet reminder of where she started. Across the room, Agnes Cole was seated proudly in her wheelchair, smiling as she greeted guests. Ethan stood beside her, speaking with a group of reporters, but his eyes kept drifting toward Maya. When it was time for the ceremony to begin, Agnes tapped the microphone gently. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, her voice carrying the authority of experience and the warmth of gratitude. "Tonight we honor the spirit of kindness that saves more than lives, it saves faith. This foundation exists because one young woman refused to turn away when a stranger needed help. Maya, my dear, please join us." The crowd applauded as Maya stepped onto the stage. She took a deep breath and looked out at the faces before her faces of people who cared, people who worked long hours, just as she once had. "When I first became a nurse," she began, "I believed my job was only about medicine, but I have learned that healing comes from the heart as much as from science. This initiative is not about me. It is about every act of compassion that keeps hope alive." The audience erupted in applause. Ethan joined her on stage, carrying a small velvet box. "There is one more thing," he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "My mother and I wanted to thank you properly." He opened the box to reveal a silver necklace, her pendant, polished and reset with a small diamond at its center. "This belonged to my mother," he said, "but she believes it now belongs to you. It represents the night you saved her life and the light you brought into ours." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "I do not know what to say." "Then let me say it for you," Ethan continued, taking a step closer. "You once told me you dreamed of opening a free clinic. Now you have done that and more. You have given this company its soul back." The room grew silent as Ethan took her hand. "Maya Lewis," he said, his voice soft but clear, "you have changed everything I thought I knew about strength, grace, and love. Will you allow me to spend the rest of my life proving that you were right to believe in me? Gasps and murmurs rippled through the audience, followed by applause and a few happy tears. Maya blinked, unable to speak, then nodded with a trembling smile. Yes, Ethan, I will. The crowd cheered as Ethan placed the necklace gently around her neck and drew her into a quiet embrace. Agnes clapped from her seat, tears shining in her eyes. Later that night, as the guests began to leave, Maya stepped outside onto the terrace. The city stretched endlessly before her, alive with light. Ethan joined her, slipping his hand into hers. Remember that rainy night outside St. Mary's Hospital? He asked softly. That was the moment fate found us both. Maya looked up at him, her smile tender. The best storms always leave something beautiful behind. Above them, the wind carried the faint sound of laughter and music from the ballroom. But for Maya, time had slowed. She was no longer just the poor nurse who had once fought the rain to save a stranger. She was a woman who had found purpose, justice, and love, all because she chose to act with kindness. And as the city lights flickered below, the silver pendant around her neck caught the glow, shining like a promise that the story of that one night would never fade.